Hi, everybody. Everybody knows me at this point. It's day 3 of our online open house, and they've seen my face a lot. So I'll just skip myself and jump into the main people here today. With me today, I'm joined by the staff in our amazing late nature lab, Benedict and Mary. Benedict and Mary, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Benedict Gagliardi. I'm the collections manager and staff biologist here at the Nature Lab. And Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary. Am the imaging lab assistant here at the Nature Lab. I'm in the downstairs part of the imaging lab, kind of directly below the main collection room.
Right under my feet.
Yes, lurking below.
Fantastic. So this session will be wait, I don't have another session after this today, so we can go to 2 o'clock if we need to today. But it'll be just an information session about all the resources that the Nature Lab has to offer. And then we'll leave some time at the end for some questions. But feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A as we go along. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Benedict.
Cool. Yeah, so what I figured I would do is I'll give an overview of the Nature Lab entirely using our website, our nifty website, as a proxy for actually being here. And then I'll hand it over to Mary to talk about what's going on downstairs, and then we'll kind of take some questions at the end. I always give the disclaimer that looking at the website is pretty cool, but it's nothing like being here. So hopefully you all get a chance to stop by in the near future. But with that said, I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see this? Yeah, cool. So before we dive too far in, I'll just give a little bit of background about the Nature Lab. We occupy RISD's first building when it was founded in 1877, the Waterman Building. So our space is pretty stunning, just in a architectural sense. It's a large room, high ceilings, big windows in the front. And it used to house the museum of the school when it was first founded. And when that got too big, it became the library. And when that got too big, it was this fabulous open room with these sort of vintage glass face cabinets. And there was a graduate of RISD in 1920. She graduated in painting. Her name was Edna Lawrence. And she taught here for about 15 years after exploring the world a bit and then coming back to RISD. She used whatever room she had available, but in 1937, they said, Miss Lawrence, would you like to use this space to teach your nature drawing class, which was a class that all freshmen took. And she jumped at the opportunity, so she immediately filled these empty cabinets with specimens that she had collected on her travels around the world. She was quite a bold and ambitious and incredible woman for her day and age, or just in general. She's kind of a legend and an icon that we all kind of admire greatly for her bold thoughts of putting together what looks like a natural history museum collection. We have all kinds of specimens representing plants and animal diversity, minerals, fossils, bones, taxidermy galore, everything. But rather than having it a collection in the standard sense of, put your hands in your pockets, read the words that are written on the front of the case, nod and go, that's interesting, she created a hands-on reference library for students to use. So you could see, demonstrated by these folks here at the table in this image, all the specimens in Miss Lawrence's collection were brought in there for the purpose of being used and handled and interrogated and investigated and appreciated by students not in the academic sciences but in the art and design world. And it's because Edna believed that an endless stream of inspiration could come from looking to nature, because when you look at nature for a little while or a prolonged period, you see infinite hues, patterns, size, structure, texture, everything that you could be kind of shopping for as a fine artist. You'll find a beautiful example there to mimic and learn from. Everything that you could be looking for as a designer, someone who solves problems, is also there. So a lot of times we get asked to explain, why does RISD have a bunch of taxidermy and natural specimens? That makes no sense. That should be at a science academy. And the simplest way to say it, which is truthful for how it was first founded, is that these specimens are the perfect things for students to learn how to draw from life, actual, authentic pieces of the world. Beyond that, though, and as we've developed over our almost 90 years of existence, the Nature Lab is a hub for all kinds of thought, all kinds of jumping off points, whether you're trying to design an interesting piece of ergonomic furniture, or you're trying to think about the material waste in your building and creating of things. You're trying to look at cycles of materiality, or just efficient design. Looking to nature for inspiration has become a go-to part of the process here at RISD. So bio-inspired design, biomimicry are all sort of big features of what we have this collection of material for. So that's just kind of a philosophical summary of the founding of the lab and our main space, the main collection, what you're seeing right here. What you're not seeing is the little room attached to it that I'm actually sitting in. It's called the bone room. Hopefully I don't make anyone sick by doing this, but I'll give a quick spin around so you can see the bone cabinets. We call these the oversized shelves. In this cabinet, we have bird study skins, so we have a salvage permit for picking up unfortunate dead birds that have hit windows and things like that. And even you'd never guess that there was a lion just out of view, but we have all kinds of, and of course a flying dolphin skeleton above me. So we try to maintain a wide variety of specimens because each specimen is a world of inspiration depending on what question is asked or whose eyes are looking at it. I can go on ad nauseum because I'm a little biased. I think the Nature Lab's pretty darn cool. I'm going to pass things off to Mary just to give balance to my blabble. And then we'll talk about, Mary will talk about what the Nature Lab has expanded to downstairs in our microscopy and imaging lab. And then we'll talk about one other space together and all the other things that I failed to mention so far. So Mary, the baton goes to
Awesome.
you.
Okay. Well, I am actually going to move myself into the imaging lab so that way you guys can get a little bit of an idea of like what the space is like. And there's a really great picture that Ben is sharing as well in the shared screen. So the downstairs from the main collection room, and we have a pretty expansive amount of different types of imaging equipment that students can get access to. And we're really interested in being able to train students, art and design students on this type of equipment and giving them access to tools that, you know, typically are limited to scientists and science students. So we have stereoscopes that engage with our Tiny Town collection, and those go up to 40 times magnification, and those are oftentimes referred to as like our kind of workhorses of the imaging lab. They're a great introduction to kind of looking at this smaller scale and discovering these kind of like hidden worlds that we don't typically have access to. You can also see examples of that on our Flickr account that we're always kind of adding to and expanding. That is a really awesome resource that kind of gives reference to a lot of the things that we do down here. And from there, we have all sorts of other types of microscopes as well. We have a compound inverted microscope. We have even a scanning electron microscope, which is really special. So that goes up to 350,000 times magnification. And that is typically especially like, you know, coveted equipment, seeing things on a really, really small scale. We have a collection called Nearly Nanoville, and students can even add to that collection by making their own specimens, whether that is materials that they're working with and they want to look at on a different scale. Sometimes looking at biomimicry and kind of seeing these structural elements of these creatures that we're looking at and putting under the microscope. So, yeah,
Mary,
we have a,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. I just wanted to double check. Are you seeing my screen with the SEM image?
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to
Is
double
that a,
check.
yeah. That looks like a seed.
It
Um,
is.
yeah. Um, So, yeah, poppy seed, excellent.
Mhm.
Other things that we have available down here, we have 3D scanning equipment. We have a macropod. So, a macropod is oftentimes a really awesome piece of equipment if you want to get highly detailed images where everything is in focus all at once. Yeah, so you can see that on our Flickr page as well. We're also always uploading 3D models onto our Sketchfab account, which is available to the public. And folks are able to kind of go on there and look at 3D models of things from our main collection and engage with that in a different way as well. Um, and I definitely encourage you to take a look at our website and just kind of peruse all of the different equipment we have available, because we can check some things out to folks that want to go out into the field. It's a really great resource for people to kind of use these different optical tools and engage with nature in a different way to kind of just find these like inner parallel worlds that your optical system doesn't typically have access to. Um, did I miss anything, Ben?
Oh, I love the philosophies that you're expressing. They're they touch my heart really. Um, I would just backtrack to things that I overlooked or didn't mention. And this is kind of an example, just being on the Sketchfab page that Mary was talking about, where our 3D scans are. The the microscopy lab is kind of like an extension of the foundational space upstairs. So we give hands-on access to things. We also, all of our specimens have a little number written on them, an accession number, and they either have a red dot or no red dot. If there's a red dot, they have to be used in-house. If there's no red dot, you could check them out like library books for a week or two. And then we give them new dimension, like Mary was mentioning. This Sketchfab site has over 500 3D models based on specimens in our collection or specimens that students have brought in. I think the cormorant skull was actually doesn't even have a number yet. Someone found it and brought it into the lab. So the collection itself has grown substantially since Edna Lawrence founded it. She started it with a couple thousand specimens, a good variety of stuff, but we're in the realm of 100,000 specimens. That's everything from the big taxidermied bear and lion out there to every last bone and pinned insect and every last microscope slide and scanning electron microscope specimen. And some of them have been digitized or are given, a new way of interacting with through the microscopy lab. So we definitely have nothing can replace the experience of handling and being present with an authentic piece of material. But we do have a global reach with our digitized resources. So you're all welcome to engage with those and get a sense of what things are like. But really, we're a real world place primarily.
And the other thing too that I want to bring up is students are also encouraged to bring objects from, the outside world and things that they kind of encounter throughout their day into the imaging lab and put it under a microscope and get a closer look at it and kind of see what they discover. So sometimes that can be like a really helpful way of getting just engaged with one's surroundings in like a different way and gain a different perspective on that too. And like we're really just interested in playing with scale down here, both with physical scale by looking at all of these tiny things, and also playing with scale and time too, because we have slow motion video available, and we can take videos of things under the microscope. So just really thinking about scale down here for sure is
Hmm.
really important, and I think an important thing to kind of reflect on when students are making art and designing things. And yeah.
Definitely. And it's funny, this photo I'm looking at, this I'll be honest, it is a staged photo, but it really isn't too far off from reality. This type of activity in the microscopy lab is pretty typical. The students looking at pinned insect specimens, taking macro photographs, using the standard stereo microscopes or the research grade microscopes, 3D scanning in one of two ways. There's a lot going on down there all the time. And there's a lot that we support going on outside of the nature lab through a number of different resources that we have available. A sense of connection to place and connection to the environment is really important. The nature lab kind of holds that near and dear to our hearts. But it's really difficult sometimes when you're in a city like Providence. Nature's what feels like real nature is a little bit farther away. But we have all kinds of field equipment, boots, nets, waders, traps to collect crabs and fish and all kinds of things that are available for students to take out and engage with the local biomes of Rhode Island. RISD has a property in Barrington on the shore called Tillinghast Farm. So you can explore the beach and the estuary it's connected to. The landscape architecture department is also working on creating some plots there of native meadow like areas. So there's a lot of change and in a really positive direction going on. There is also one other space that Mary and I will tag team discussing because neither of us specializes in what goes on in this space, but it's called our biodesign makerspace. I could give you some quick background on what this space used to be before it was recreated. So this space, for a long time, it had some large touch tanks, saltwater aquaria, which house local sea life. So every September, we actually go out with a team of students that work here, and we collect marine life in Narragansett Bay, juvenile fish, invertebrates, crabs, sea stars, urchins, and things like that. Sometimes we get unusual migrant fish that come up on the Gulf Stream that won't survive the winter in our waters, so we take those in too. And we raise them throughout the year, both for one, because it's extremely interesting to see these organisms that share our planet and share our watershed. In another sense, since we are the ocean state here in Rhode Island, it's kind of representatives of the significant body of water that divides the two halves of Rhode Island. And in a very important ecological mindset, those are our neighbors that are impacted by everything that we do upstream. So whatever your materials that you work with in whatever discipline or department, the waste, if it's not dealt with, if chemicals or paints or anything like that are just haphazardly put down the drain, it's the critters in these tanks that are having to deal with it and having to bear the brunt of it. In 2018, though, this room, basically, it was our wet lab. It had the tanks, and it had some big tables, some very utilitarian rectangular tables that were great for working on stuff, but not a very inspiring place in an interior design sort of sense or a biophilic sort of sense. So our director, Jen Bissonette, co-taught a biodesign class, and they used this room as a case study, and they redesigned it with biophilic principles, wanting to incorporate nature into the built environment, and biomimetic principles, thinking about the cycle of materials and how long they persist after they are done with. So a lot of sustainable materials, regenerative materials like corks, and these tables were handmade out of wood that doesn't use any formaldehyde or any toxic chemicals in its production. And they're also coated with something called polyway instead of polyurethane. It's a byproduct of the dairy industry that makes a great coating for tables like this. I used it on my kitchen butcher block too. It's great. And then we also have aquaponic systems in here. So they're essentially a fish tank that is connected to another area of water where you could grow plants. And in that, it's a microcosm of an aquatic habitat where the fish eat the food we give them. They produced waste. The bacteria in the system break down the waste into a usable form for the plants, nitrates, and then the plants grow and clean the water. So it's there as an example of what can be done in an urban environment, a food desert like an urban environment is too often. So these systems can be modified to be any sort of shape or size and allow you to grow edible plants and edible fish too. But so there's a lot going on in this room. The other thing that this room has become is our biomaterials sort of laboratory experimentation area. Mary, do you want to take a crack at talking about that?
I can try.
Yeah.
It's not exactly my area of expertise, but basically we have a biomaterials library and we have recipes on our website as well. So that gives some access to folks, if they want to take a crack at doing some of these, some of the more safe biomaterial recipes at home. Or, we can do trainings in this space as well. Kombucha leather drying is like one of the first ones here, and like that one is super accessible, like having done it myself. Like yeah, so you can do all sorts of different types of biomaterials that we actually kind of oftentimes exist around, but maybe like take them for granted. Paper is another one. We've been recently doing quite a lot with paper making specifically, along with our Year of the Tree program. That is kind of ongoing with lots of events and paper making workshops. And yeah, so we have like a library where you can kind of come in, and if you aren't sure exactly like what type of biomaterials you'd like to engage with or try making, you can like physically pick them up and look at them and like learn a little bit about like the kinds of like qualities that are inherent to them. Yeah, and we have a lot of like workshops as well for classes, and we have some lovely grad assistants in the biomaterials space as well that do quite a bit of research and experimentation on new materials. So they're really awesome to work with as well.
Yeah, it's an ever evolving, rapidly evolving wing of the Nature Lab. It's really because of student demand for sustainable regenerative materials and making protocols and techniques that help rather than hinder the healing of our environment. The Nature Lab has kind of jumped to fill that role of making a space and expertise that will help students understand what possible directions there are. We hope that we become even more of a biomaterials laboratory, but right now we can kind of get everyone to dip their toes into the different possibilities and see what's involved in it and what's possible for the projects they're working on. And a lot of faculty curricula have really started to embrace and involve a biomaterials aspect of some point, even if it's just a full class workshop, to just show it's not that hard, and the materials involved are things you could get at the pharmacy if you wanted to do it in your own kitchen. So it's pretty exciting, and it's like I said, it's rapidly evolving.
Mhm.
Um,
One thing I want to mention too, since I know these are potential grads, is we do have grad assistant positions between the biomaterials and the imaging lab. So there are kind of these pretty fun and really engaging positions. I was a former grad assistant actually myself, so I came out of that and loved it enough that I wanted to be here for longer and stay on. So
we'll
I was
never
lucky
let you
enough
go,
to
Mary.
please don't. Yeah, so in the here in the imaging lab, we have grad assistants that help kind of keep up with our Sketchmap and Flickr accounts and contribute to that. And they also do a lot of demonstrations with classes and individual students as well. So that can be a really great role if you're interested in teaching or have teaching experience. Biomaterials folks are doing a lot of research on um, different materials that they're interested in and kind of are contributing to this ongoing library as well. And they'll, do meetings as well with students and help them kind of troubleshoot or figure out like what kind of materials they might want to engage with. Um, so, just wanted to drop that in there because I have definitely met a lot of grad students that really want to engage with the nature lab. And, I feel like it's important to know that these positions exist. So, yeah, anything to add to that, Ben?
We're of the same mindset. I'm glad you jumped in and shared, especially from your experience, the value of our team of grad assistants here. They really, without the student employees at the Nature Lab, we wouldn't be able to run as we do. In the main collection, we have about 25 undergrads that help with specimen circulation, animal care, orientations for classes, and all kinds of other collections related projects. So we're a busy environment or a vibrant environment. So it's whether you have a position here or you're just coming through to utilize some of the extraordinarily unique equipment that we have. It's just a great place to find yourself in because serendipitous conversations always arise and get your mind thinking in new directions. Um, I wonder if I feel like we were very efficient in this. Mary, it's so good to tag team with you.
All
Um,
right, awesome. I feel like we're a good team with this. I like it.
yeah, maybe we could take some questions and go from there.
Perfect. This was a very thorough uh, presentation of everything that the Nature Lab has to offer. So thank you. We do have some questions in the Q&A. This first question, this person's asking specifically for a specific program, but it could be great if you could elaborate on other programs as well. This person would love to hear more about the collaboration with the Masters of Architecture and the Masters of Landscape Architecture students. Do studios typically use the resources in their environmental systems studies? And if yes, how often are these types of studios offered?
Hmm.
That's a really good question. We do get a lot of classes down here in the imaging lab with like material research in particular for Masters of Architecture and especially landscape architecture folks. I think it depends on the class and who's teaching the class on how much they engage with this space. But we definitely do collaborate them and work with them.
Yeah, we're always open and available to individual appointments and class appointments, and our grad team is always made up of a combination of disciplines. So we kind of have liaisons to different departments. There, yeah, especially the landscape architecture department, like Mary said, there's often classes that some use of the imaging lab especially is worked into their curricula, whether they're looking at soil microbiology or GIS mapping or all sorts of things that depend on the expertise and equipment that we have. There are more classes that have sort of site-specific projects. I know there was one, I'm pretty sure it was a landscape architecture class that looked at a site that was within long walking distance of the lab along the East Bay bike path, and used field equipment to engage with that site, and also looked into historical use of that site. Um, Also, architecture is really a department that is concerned. I mean, I'm speaking on behalf of my conversations with some professors. They want to work regenerative design and eco literacy and sustainability into their teaching. So they're very involved in those ways. I'm failing to draw any exact studio classes sort of involvement, but yeah, significant use, I would say.
Thank you. Perfect. Let's see here, another question. Are these aquaponic studies continue today? I would love to be involved in sustainable food systems, especially making the most of an urban setting.
Oh, that's a great question.
Mhm.
Well, the aquaponic systems that are in the lab, it's funny when I clicked on this website, I actually got to look at this when our 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 aquaponic systems were installed in the lab in maybe 2017 or 2018, and it was out of another class that our now director co-taught, and it was a class that was focused on aquaponics systems. I don't know that that class has been taught again, but during that class, these systems were installed into the lab, and it was again kind of a example, a case study of like in this space, what can we grow? And we were growing. I mean, there's large. They're called shabunkin goldfish in this big tank. It's a deep water grow bed, but then we had basil and other garden vegetables growing in this other drain and a fill and drain system. That was replaced by a newer system that unfortunately this image only gives one little picture of it, just this one little fish tank. It looks kind of a funny representative of the entire system because over to this side there's a larger grow bed and a second vertical system against the wall. Those systems continue to be maintained by our lab coordinator and our undergraduates. And we've cycled all kinds of plants out of there, whether they've been plants that have been used for natural dyeing workshops or plants that were harvested to feed to our tortoise that lives here at the lab, or plants related to paper making. So we have papyrus growing in there right now. So it's kind of become something that not necessarily seasonally, but sometimes topically will cycle out and just demonstrate the value of these systems in this type of environment. Um,
One thing I do want to add as well is we do have a student-run garden plot, the rec garden, and I feel like that's definitely important to mention as well. And talking about like urban spaces and yeah, the regenerative earth collection is student-run, and they do a fantastic job. So I feel like that would be a really good thing to get involved with as well if you're interested in kind of like urban agricultural systems and um, yeah, they are fantastic. I cannot speak highly enough of them.
yeah, they've really transformed so many things, including a little poorly used, unused little patch of lawn on campus. They made into this beautiful garden where they grow vegetables and dye plants, and they host and help coordinate all kinds of workshops that go on throughout the semester. Um, and they
The
started.
recent, oh, sorry.
Oh no, no,
The
go ahead.
recent Indigo workshop was through them as well, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
They started as a student club, an organization, but they began to have such an outsized positive impact on campus that our director thought we need to fund some student positions. So there's actually 3 undergraduate garden manager positions that we help to support there as well. Thanks for bringing that
Fantastic.
up, Mary. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Mary, maybe you can speak to this. How does someone go about being a grad assistant at the Nature Lab?
That's a good question. Typically, we'll open up applications and we'll advertise those on Instagram and also the RISD, like student employment website as well. That's you would apply through there. And then I think, we do a big hiring round in the fall semester towards the beginning of the semester then. And occasionally we'll have positions open up like in between fall and spring semester as well. So I would recommend just kind of checking out our Instagram and like keeping tabs on that. Yeah, and we'll try to keep the application open for a solid few weeks so people that are moving into town and kind of sorting themselves out as they get ready for the semester have time to apply.
That's great. Thank you.
And we
Mhm.
tend to have, what is it, 5 or 6 tech grads in the microscopy lab?
We have 6 right now.
Okay,
Yeah, in the imaging lab. And then I believe we have 3 in biomaterials.
that sounds right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Is the Nature Lab open to alumni and or general public, or is it only for current students?
We are open to everyone. We're one of the interesting places on campus, even though the building's card access, we keep the number at the door. And if you come by during our open hours and say, "Hi, can I come in and just check out things?" We'll come let you in. And we are often visited by the public. We actually just started kind of collecting numbers on how many visitors we get and where are people coming from. And in a week and a half, I think we had more 50 or 100. I think 50 entries or 100 people from the public, and coming from as far away as California, and making sure that they stop by the lab. So that's great.
That's great. If you ever come to campus, the RISD Museum is open to the public, and then not a far walk from the museum is the Nature Lab, so you can see it all.
I will say with the downstairs, the imaging lab is technically open by appointment only. So, we do have folks here and, welcome people to kind of take a look around. But for access to the equipment, we try to prioritize students and then we'll, accommodate alumni with like an emailed appointment and kind of be in touch with people on that. So, just want to have that one caveat there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. I do have some other questions queued up. You've touched upon this, but are there opportunities for students to engage in independent research or experimentation with materials from the lab?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, if anyone, has any questions about like how they can engage with the nature lab specifically or, have an idea but aren't exactly sure how to like access that or go through the kind of initial steps, we're happy to work with students on, finding kind of a possible route for that within our capacity. And then, if it's kind of beyond our kind of use of the space, then we're definitely happy to like troubleshoot and try to get people in touch with others around RISD or Brown potentially as well, and potentially work that out.
Yeah, that's well put, Mary. I think all of us on staff here are a diverse mix of backgrounds, but we all function as facilitators to access equipment or resources or expertise or opportunities. So with our specialized resources and equipment, of course, we want to make those as useful and accessible to folks as we can. Used within reason, of course. We don't check the taxidermy out to go on parade or anything like that. And same with the instrumentation downstairs. We definitely we use microscopes and things in a broader sense. We try to champion the use of or the recategorization of tools of scientific inquiry as just tools of inquiry. One thing, just because the word materials was used, a lot of the questions that we get are about biomaterials and like, does the nature lab supply the ingredients and stuff? In some cases, yes. In class context, the teacher usually supplies that. But most importantly, a lot of that material is extremely cheap and easy to buy yourself. Other things. Oh, there was something in my head that has just absolutely drifted away. It doesn't matter. We've probably answered more than was asked.
Can you share some examples of student work that was particularly innovative or surprising?
Ooh.
Oh, um, wow, that happens all the time. You know what I'll do is I'll go to this Discover page. I jumped onto this page briefly. Oh no, not Discover, Gallery. And I'll give the disclaimer that this is a gallery of student work, but it only captures a small fragment of the output of students who work here or come study here or take a class here that's related to something. A lot of this is visual. A lot of the things that students innovate on can't be summarized in a single image. Um, I've definitely been blown away by just the visual art that I see upstairs on a day-to-day basis. Coming from a non-art background, I'm an entomologist by training. I'm just constantly blown away by that. In the field of bio design and biomimicry, there's a huge collaborative since 2018 with the Hyundai car company. And it's all focused on bio design, improving the design culture of that company to be more informed by how nature has solved issues and working with nature so as not to damage it. Um, there have been incredible projects that we often showcase for tours and stuff coming through, ranging from water collection systems based on beetle elytra to uh, um, uh, noise silencing car grills based on bird wings. Just a huge variety of it's too bad that our coworker Jess isn't here. She kind of is the staff member involved in that program. She could give you the most up to date. Mary, is there anything else that stands out to you? As I,
I mean, I think I nothing specifically. I think more broadly, the wide range of work that is inspired by the Nature Lab and comes out by students of all sorts of different disciplines is really amazing. And to be able to facilitate that and kind of watch the many iterations of that is incredible. And just always awe-inducing. So I think we're in particular like very lucky because we get to engage with students from all of these different departments and disciplines, and everyone is going to kind of come at this with a different perspective and different potential directions to go in. So that's all I have to say. It's just that we're really lucky that we get to kind of watch everything go down and change throughout many iterations.
I think one that our director often cites is there's a couple images here of an FAV student, Maria Ferreira, who was enamored by crystal growth and learned to use our compound microscope and make solutions of different materials and that crystallize as they dry, as the liquid evaporates. And she did this series of stop motion animation, videography, and she started showing them to folks. And some trained crystallographers were like, "This is a really interesting thing that you've captured here. We'd like to study it. Would you like to collaborate with us?" So, I think that it's such a nice example because it speaks to the value of going at problem solving from a different direction than a scientific method. All are legitimate and all may lead to interesting solutions, but there's not one way to get there.
Fantastic. Thank you. We do have a question for you, Mary, in the Q&A. For imaging tools, do any of the microscopes have SHG microscopy capabilities, or would students be able to be connected for resources to explore that kind of imaging?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I'm actually not sure offhand. But if they would like to email me, I can find out. Yeah, here I can drop my email in the chat if that's helpful. And if they want to follow up with an email, I'm happy to do some research. Unless Ben's been here for a little bit longer than I have too, so maybe he'll know.
I will not profess to know what that acronym means, and when I Google it really quick, it looks like second harmonic imaging microscopy. Perhaps that's
Okay.
correct. If so, well, I have not seen that done here at the lab. That doesn't mean that we're not capable of it. We're
Hmm.
we're I don't like using the word scrappy team, but we are an ambitious team when it comes to someone proposing a technique that we're not familiar with. We'll do all we can to see if we have the tools to put something together. There was a class a number of years ago that wanted to do during lockdown, during COVID. Schlerin imaging became very popular as a way of visualizing um, temperature and differentials. So if you did this imaging with a lit candle, you would see a lot of the different waves around beyond just the light of the candle, and you could see breath. So it was used for imaging, sneezes and breathing through masks and things like that.
Hmm.
And the all that's really involved is a pinhole light, a convex mirror, and a couple of other not very specialized pieces of equipment. So we we researched it, learned how to do it, put it together, and were able to get some imagery for a class, and then use it again for another couple students. So yeah.
And I'd like to add too, I know Ben mentioned this earlier, we do have a really wide range of backgrounds amongst our staff. So I received my MFA in painting from RISD. And that's really my background. So I think, in terms of where I approach and how I approach like the imaging lab, I'm really interested in how all of these imaging tools kind of can connect to the broader idea of imaging technology, which I think includes things like painting and printmaking and drawing, and um, kind of thinking about how like we're engaging with this broader history too. So I don't have the science background personally, but yeah, we're all very like resourceful in figuring out how to kind of come up with solutions when students are interested in like specific tools and directions that they can go in.
Fantastic. Thank you both. All right. It looks like we've reached the end of our questions here. Unless there's anything last minute, I can maybe give you some 10 minutes back to your day. I want to thank everybody for being here and learning about our nature lab. If you have any questions after this, feel free to email me at admissions@risd.edu. I'm sure it'll be okay if I can't answer them, direct them over to the Nature Lab to help answer. And then we hope to see you maybe if you come visit Providence. Visit the admissions office and the Nature Lab. We're all not far away from each other, up hills, but not far at all. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Benedict. Thank you, Mary, for being here today. We really appreciate you letting us know about everything the Nature Lab has to offer.
Thank
Happy as
you.
always. Yeah, happy to share it.
Yeah.
And just like you said, got to come see it in person. We
Yeah.
did our best, but it's something to see in person.
You did a
Come say
fantastic
hello.
job.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Yeah, feel free
Perfect.
to reach out.
Hmm.
Great. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
You
Cool.
too. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.